Welcome to our incredible journey through Vietnam. Over 2 weeks, we explore vibrant cities, historic monuments, beaches, and savor delicious Vietnamese food. Starting in Ho Chi Minh City, we then travel to Da Nang, Hoi An, finished in Hanoi, and enjoyed a luxury cruise in Halong Bay. We travelled during the off-peak season, so mid-May to early June, enjoying fewer tourists, cheaper costs, and frequent hotel upgrades. Whilst the heat was intense during this time, especially in Hoi An, where it reached temperatures of 39 degrees but felt like 42. The route that we took is great year-round, but for maximum value, our timing and itinerary might be worth replicating. This is why I'm happy to share exactly what we did and all the places we visited in this vlog. So let's just get straight into it. Day 1, arriving in Ho Chi Minh City, which is in the south of Vietnam. And we stayed in quite a luxurious hotel called the Silverland, and it did cost us around £300, but for 4 nights I still think that that's really affordable. We headed into town to do a little bit of sightseeing. Unfortunately, the weather wasn't too great, but it was actually nice that it wasn't too hot. We of course came towards the main square where you find the cafe apartments, and basically just took in all the scenes around there, making our way towards the City People's Committee Palace as well, which everything to us just looks so beautiful. So it's getting a little bit later now. As you can see, it's getting dark and we're standing just in front of the Royal Concert Hall. So we're going to head towards the river, check out that area, then probably find a food market to eat at tonight. And we did head towards the river, but not before crossing one of the craziest and what felt like most dangerous roads where the lights weren't even working. So that was our first experience in Vietnam of crossing roads. We also checked out the hotels in that area, which looked incredible at night, the way that they were all lit up, and headed to Vo Roof for some dinner. It's day 2 in Ho Chi Minh City.
The heat is crazy and the humidity.
Yep, he wasn't exaggerating. It was really hot, so we tried to take advantage every morning of getting up early, heading to grab a coffee to wake up. And on this specific day we came to Tao Dan Park, which is this beautiful park where tons of people were enjoying. The Independence Palace was a taxi ride away, and we enjoyed what tiny bit of aircon they had inside. And afterwards, Danny helped this man carry his coconuts down the street before we would head towards the War Remnants Museum. You'll find a lot of war museums in Vietnam because of the significant impact it had on its people and its country, but it's definitely worth visiting a few. We then headed for lunch at a Vietnamese bistro called Propaganda, before grabbing a taxi and heading to the Vincom Centre and Landmark 81. So we're just outside Landmark 81, we're about to go in. It's a shopping mall, but it's also the tallest building in Ho Chi Minh. Now we've had our lunch and cooled down a little bit, I'm feeling a lot better. Just outside the shopping centre, we found this beautiful central park where we could sit and chill out for a bit. It had these really beautiful bridges and actually a pond in the middle with tons of fish. Later that evening, we went to Ben Tan Market, which is actually right next to our hotel, so we were able to walk through every time we left. That evening we came to one of our best dinners at Hoi An, which is a Vietnamese contemporary cuisine. We absolutely loved the food here and I would highly recommend visiting this place. We actually released a vlog last week about everything that we ate whilst on this trip, so if you haven't seen that already, head back to our channel and find out about all the amazing things that we ate in Vietnam. Cue the booming loud music for what is known as Beer Street in Ho Chi Minh City, where you'll find literally the craziest and most loud street with tons of bars, nightclubs, people dancing outside, where you can grab a beer, you can even eat there, but obviously I wouldn't recommend it because it really hurts your ears. Day 3 started off with our usual morning route through Ben Thanh Market before heading towards a coffee shop that we'd found on Google called Tonkin Specialty Coffee. All the cafes in Vietnam are really cool. Usually you go up this winding staircase and you find this very well presented place, and of course the coffee is incredible. Immediately after we headed to Cholon, which we kind of thought might be like a Chinatown, and it definitely was, full of tons of shops. There was this kind of haberdashery street where you could buy lots of beads. Here's us crossing again at very dangerous places, and we also explored a pagoda called Hoi An, which was really beautiful. And because we came here in the morning, it wasn't super busy, and of course in this off-peak season we're not really experiencing that many tourists, so it's definitely a plus about going during this period of time. We then popped into our local pho place called Pho 2000 before heading back to Landmark 81 when we decided that we were going to go up to the observation deck. Now, of course, we planned to do this because we wanted to see the sunset.
Wow, breathtaking view, honestly.
Yeah, it was completely misty. You literally couldn't see anything. I'm super afraid of heights, so I actually felt okay because you did have to travel up and round and keep going up steps, and I probably would have just been stuck to the inside wall and not being able to go near the edge. So this was actually quite good for me, but obviously paying around £10 each was a bit of a waste. Obviously not many other people were up there because everyone knew that it was going to rain this evening, and I think we just didn't realize how cloudy it was going to be at the top. So obviously I'd recommend going to this place when you know there's going to be a clear evening, and I definitely think coming in the evening so that you can see everything lit up below, because it just would look really magical. And obviously there's bars up there where you can have a nice cocktail and chill out. After the tragedy of Landmark 81, we headed down to solid ground to a restaurant called Nagun, translated as tasty. This had a really nice outside seating area, and we absolutely stuffed our face with food. We found ourselves later that evening just strolling around this notable street, and it is a pedestrian street and it's famous for all its modern buildings and this vibrant atmosphere. We actually stumbled across a nice cute dog meeting, and we were able to just watch what was going on with these customized dogs. Ho Chi Minh City really does come alive at night, not just because the heat decreases, but everything just lights up beautifully. As our last day in Ho Chi Minh, we wanted to start off slow at the Saigon Coffee Roastery because we'd had a few busy days before. And in this area in District 3, we were really impressed by a lot of the other cafes and these really quaint streets that we ended up just getting lost down. And we were on our way to quite a significant Buddhist temple, which was the first pagoda in Vietnam to be built in Vietnamese traditional architecture style, but with concrete. And of course, we couldn't leave our first city in Vietnam without going and getting a massage because we knew we would have our flight tomorrow to Da Nang. Out for lunch, we headed to Dao Homemade and we were recommended to try the Bun Dao Mam Tom before heading out to catch a show at the City Opera House, a historic French colonial building hosting traditional and modern performances. We saw a dance performance called AO and it was incredible. Shortly after, we wanted to head to a cocktail bar. This place was called Bloom. And finally, for our last night, we're headed to a street food market called Ben Nge. And I will say that this place is a little bit touristy, it's quite commercial, and maybe the quality of the food isn't as good as finding a local vendor on the street. But overall, it's a nice experience with live music, especially as our last night before heading to Da Nang. After landing in Da Nang, we checked into our Ponty Boutique villa, which was stunning, and headed straight to the beach to go for a stroll. Da Nang was really giving Miami vibes with these big rows with the palm trees. Immediately, we went to a seafood restaurant since we're right close to the beach. You could find plenty of these places along the coastline, and we went for the first one that we saw because we were super hungry, and we grabbed a ton of fresh seafood before retiring back to our hotel for the night. Day 2 in Da Nang started on the beach at Maya Beach Bar with a couple of iced coffees. Then we jumped on the scooter and headed towards a lunch place for some really nice pho and fried rice. The weather turned a bit, so we did have to head inside to a cafe because we were planning to go to Lady Buddha this morning. But instead, it was quite nice to chill in this cafe for the rest of the afternoon.
We actually decided to have some seafood again.
And I think we chose a really good restaurant this evening. We actually just stumbled across it, but it's definitely worth checking out. It's day 3 already because the weather was pretty bad, but this morning we headed to a coffee place which is really, really cool and grabbed some really nice coffees. Then we scooted over to where the Lady Buddha is on the edge of the coastline, where you'll find some really stunning panoramic views of Da Nang, as well as some really cute monkeys. If you do come to the Lady Buddha, make sure you leave hours and hours because you really can explore the whole area and find the other temples here as well. It really was probably the highlight of our whole trip in Da Nang. After having an incredible meal at Chickpea Eatery, we jumped on the scooter and wanted to ride across the famous Dragon Bridge. It really is beautiful here.
Okay, so tonight for our last night in Da Nang, we came to Son Tra Night Market.
We'd seen a lot of negative comments about Son Tra Market on Google reviews. They were saying that it was too busy and the vendors always come up to you and pester you to buy stuff. It was a little bit like that, but it wasn't unmanageable. And at the end of the market, you can catch the fire-breathing dragon at 9 p.m. with this cool bar that's a scooter ride away, that's a hidden cocktail bar behind a banh mi store where you can find lots of specialty cocktails. Day 4 and our last day in Da Nang had us visiting the Marble Mountains, which is this cluster of marble and limestone hills with caves and temples and really stunning views. I mean, look at that, and the way that it's lit up is absolutely beautiful. You can also climb a lot higher if you can bear the heat and the steepness and find a panoramic view over the whole of Da Nang. An hour taxi ride away and we're in Hoi An, checking into M's House Homestay. Here you can only find these low-rise buildings as there's no skyscrapers, and it kind of protects the landscape of Hoi An and keeps it very picturesque and quaint. This was one of the best upgrades that we had, with these massive double windows and a great view overlooking the city. You need to come here if you come to Hoi An. We ate the best banh mi that we had in the entire trip. And we spent the rest of the afternoon digesting those lovely banh mi by the beach before heading out to the old town for dinner and experiencing probably the busiest area that we'd been in. We really thought that it wasn't going to be this busy out of peak season, but it was completely rammed with tourists and it was a struggle to find somewhere to eat. But we ended up coming to Morning Glory, a really nice restaurant which we would later visit again. Good morning. Day 2 in Hoi An, and we're picking out our ingredients from Ban Lim Market for our experience of the day, which had us heading to Coconut Village, where we would ride on these amazing bamboo boats before heading to the kitchen to cook some traditional Vietnamese dishes. The boat ride was probably the best part of this experience, and we floated calmly towards an area where these men were spinning in their boats and doing tricks. Now it's time for cooking.
And you will roll your rice paper with the top water, chili.
We're storming ahead to day 3 in Hoi An, where we find Chickpea Eatery again, which we loved the first time. We felt like we needed to try all their other dishes. Later that evening, escaping the heat, which felt like 42 degrees that day, we headed into the old town and came back to the restaurant called Morning Glory.
A giant red snapper fish.
Then we ended the evening with the main thing that you need to do on the river in Hoi An: light a lantern and let it float away on the river. Checking into our Airbnb in Hoi An was a really nice surprise. It was exactly as it looked on the pictures, if not better, with this giant bath and beautiful features. We immediately went out for lunch at the Lakeview side restaurant to try some bun cha. Unfortunately, it wasn't the best, but we were right next to the lake that we wanted to visit. Ho Chi Minh Lake, which also features an island with a rising sun bridge and a pagoda in the middle of it, hosting relics of the giant sword lake turtles. In Cafe Din, right next to the lake, we enjoyed probably our favourite iced egg coffee, so would highly recommend this place, before we explored the area surrounding the lake in this part of Hanoi. Breaking up the two major cities of Ho Chi Minh and Hanoi was a brilliant idea because we were able to relax in areas like Da Nang and Hoi An before heading back to a very busy city. This evening we came to a very casual spot called Hoang's restaurant and then headed towards a roof bar called Majesty's Sky Bar, which is also a hotel.
The view is so good, so you can see the lake from here and all the elite buildings.
Good morning. After our coffees in All Day Coffee 55, we headed to the Imperial Citadel of Thang Long and then headed to the Temple of Literature. Shortly after, we needed to grab some lunch and we found another banh mi place which wasn't as good as Madame Khan in Hoi An, before later heading to Trang Tien Plaza and watching a film where we had the whole room to ourselves. For dinner we came to the Westlake area to Lotte Mall because we wanted to try the food court and we weren't disappointed. There was a ton of options here and would highly recommend this mall in general. We also were pleasantly surprised that downstairs they had a massive supermarket and we were able to browse all the amazing Asian stuff. The next day in Hanoi we headed towards the Florist Cafe, which is in this nice book street, before heading to the Prison Relic Museum, also known as Hoi La Prison, and also the Hanoi Hilton. If you come to just one museum in Hanoi, make sure this is the one. Now we're finally visiting the most famous thing in Hanoi, the train street, a narrow street with train tracks running through it, where a train actually passes by with inches from your face. And for lunch afterwards we headed to the east for some Michelin guide food and grabbed some coffees from the Loading Tea Cafe.
So we were coming out for the evening and then this massive storm started. We had to seek some shelter in a brewery, which actually we were really surprised. It's super nice in here. It's called Turtle Lake Brewery and they've actually got their own IPAs and hops lager. So
we enjoyed a few games of pool and some beers before heading to Naco Taco for dinner, a really nice Mexican place in the Westlake area. Because of where Halong Bay is situated, we actually wanted to do it in the middle of our Hanoi trip, so we didn't need to leave Halong Bay and get a flight straight away. We got a private shuttle to the area where we would get the ferry and we came aboard our luxury cruise. It was incredible, to say the least.
the king executive suite, which gave us probably the largest room apart from the one that's at the front, which I think was like £1,000.
This specific cruise called Venus cost us around £500, and it was full board, so you're completely catered for. They take you off on the day trips, and on that first day we came to an area where we would go through a cave but be taken on these bamboo boats. And I think this trip is once in a lifetime, so if you know that you're coming to Vietnam, you should definitely consider coming on a luxury cruise in the bay. And if you're wondering whether it's worth it to stay 1 or 2 nights, we really enjoyed 2 nights because we didn't want to only see that view from the rooftop once. And of course, whilst you're there, you don't need to spend any money, especially if you're not drinking alcohol like we did. And there's so many different activities that you can do in the evening as well. We did not get bored. Day 2, I even woke and I did a Tai Chi class on the deck of the boat as the sun rose. And then we headed off on another day adventure to a fishing village where we rode bicycles around these dips and hills, and this is when we flew the drone and Danny accidentally crashed it into the mountain.
And one of the most cuisine in each village in Vietnam.
More activities on this island meant drinking snake wine, getting a lowdown on the area and visiting a reconstructed village before walking across these planks of wood without falling in. And then having a free pedicure from these catfish, which is extremely tickly. Of course, we came at the end of the season before they wouldn't run the cruises anymore because of weather, but I wouldn't change a thing. Day 16 of our entire trip, and we've come back to Hanoi for our last couple of days to explore the Vincom Centre. There was also a nearby park called Thong Nhat Park, which is definitely a must visit, not only because of these guinea pigs, but it hosts so many different things, from these old amusement park style things to large expansive spaces, pedalos on a giant lake, and just really incredible views.
Dinner tonight we came to a place called Net,
which was a bit of a commercial place, but our main priority for this night was to check out the night market in Hanoi. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the only night market that we could find in Hanoi, but it was very, very long. I don't think we even walked to the end of it. For our last day of the entire trip, we were super sad, but we knew we had a few more things to tick off our list. This being one, a really nice cafe called Lumen. It was right near the West Lake, where we were planning to visit Tran Quoc Pagoda, which had been highly recommended online, which is actually located on an island in the West Lake and is the oldest pagoda in Hanoi. For our last few hours in Hanoi, we headed back to the Lotte Mall near the West Lake and wanted to try Pho Thin, a chain that we'd heard a lot of good things about, and had our favourite meal, beef pho. So, in summary, our journey through Vietnam was a breathtaking blend of history, culture, cuisine, and natural beauty. Each destination made this trip truly special, from the bustling streets of Hanoi to the serene beaches of Da Nang and the warmth and hospitality of the Vietnamese people. We hope our adventure has inspired you to visit Vietnam and discover its many wonders. Thanks for joining us on this journey. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment, like this video, and let us know what you thought, and I'll see you in the next video. Ciao! Also, if you're looking for a downloadable guide of our entire itinerary, head to our description.